welcome to Flory Models daily vlog. Here we are live at 5 on Thanksgiving. So happy sort of Thanksgiving to all our North American colleagues over there. I hope you're having a fantastic day, although technically you're behind us. So what is it, midday, 10 and 8 if I'm correct, or something else like that. So hopefully you're going to have a great day and enjoy yourself with family and friends. And looking at the news, and I thought we had trouble with traffic. Obviously nothing like you guys have for moving around for Thanksgiving. We call it Harvest Festival here in the UK, which, like everything, is a little bit smaller. Technically, it's nothing like you guys. Anyway, good day for me. No Lindsay, she's obviously had today off because she's going to be working right the way over the weekend, but she does send her love to you all. And she's still working because I've been talking to her a minute ago. So anyway, it has enabled me to push on really nicely with a load of things. I've got a load of editing done. Good news is the computer should be back tomorrow, so we are going to be full tilt, obviously, with the Mosquito. And as you can probably see, for all the people saying, where is it, and everything else, she is coming together really very, very nicely now. This is the first coat. I'm going to say first coat because I'm going to do something, I would say it's different. We've done it before, but we're going to play with a few different ideas and techniques of how to weather this up. I have spoke about it because, as we said before, the Mosquito, because it hasn't got the traditional million rivets, panel lining, all that usual stuff, it's really difficult to actually weather it in a convincing way, purely because it's just flat. These days, as I said, we'd call it composite materials and stuff. Those days it was called wood. Okay, so from that point of view, it does make it a little bit difficult from the traditional way of breaking things up with panel lining and just spraying in between panel lines to lighten the shade or darken the shade, vice versa. So originally I was going to go around and do my traditional techniques of pre-shading this, then we'll come in with grey, and then obviously we'd overcoat it with the camo. But actually I thought, no, we're going to try something slightly different. So what we're going to do is, we've primed this up, no problem at all. We actually did use because I think I missed actually saying it actually on the show, but we actually use it. We've got cameras on, we do have cameras on today, but we actually use this, which, to be honest, the first time I think I've used it really properly in anger, so to speak, on a proper model. But this is the MRP 84, which is actually their surface primer. And I have to say, if you're a fan of their paints, you'll love this stuff. And obviously it works really well, but also this has got a little bit of bite to it. Some traditional primers out there just do that thing of putting down basically a grey coat of paint over your model. Other primers out there have got a little bit more bite to them. And actually the ones I do like for it are the polyurethane ones. Mixed primer was particularly good because it had this sort of self-leveling ability that used to fill up all the imperfections but didn't ruin your surface detail. Don't know how it works, but obviously it's very clever stuff. So you always have this little thing where, okay, you've either got a very nice primer, gives a very nice finish, and it's like great, but it doesn't really hide any imperfections. Or you get the other ones which are quite heavy duty, they hide all the imperfections, but sometimes you run the risk of actually losing surface detail. So it's always a little bit of trade-off between both of them. This stuff, actually, I think, has just, I don't know, bridged the gap a little bit. What I did with this one, and I show it in the video as well, I had a few small little gaps and, you know, to be honest, little blemishes and problems. So what I actually did was take it by brushful and we painted it on. Notably, we can see it would have been down on here. I had a gap. And it was just like little pinpricks, if you like, that have gone through. It wasn't the best join in the world. Originally, I did see somebody who had this as a remove panel, so you could actually see the workings down in here. And I was going to do the same, so I wasn't too concerned about this join. But anyway, because of sort of time constraints and things, I've elected just to fill it. Okay, but this did have, obviously it's a nice close-up for when you do see it, some little bits in there, as did this guy over here. Okay, again, and this actually has still got one tiny one down in there. Okay, but what you can do is, I'm just looking for the wing join ones as well. Which wing join one was it? It was one of these. I can't remember actually which one it was now. I think it's the wingtip over on this one as well. I had a small little gap, catch it in the light. And again, it's filled it perfectly. So technically what I tend to do is, or my little way of doing it, primed it all up, brought it over here, we had a good look at it, and as you'll see in the video, I spot these things, and then literally brushful, slap it over it. Not being nice at all, because what this stuff does, it eats into itself. So it will self-level, and it gives you a very nice finish, and you don't have to worry about it at all. And to be honest, one of the other areas we did, because I don't know how well, if I even remember, was down in here. We had a little imperfection running just down on this edge. So we did the same thing, so we tracked it down there to take care of it like that, and again it gave us no problems at all. And you can see under here We masked this up, usual way. We used a bit of foam, so we bunged this down in here, okay, and we've taken it out now. It is going to need a little bit of touch up, got a tiny bit of overspray down on the gun, but obviously a little bit of hand painting will take care of that, and we'll have no problem with it at all. Okay, same with these down here. The engines are literally just temporarily for the moment covered over, and like I explained in the video, what I will be doing is obviously coming along, unmasking those, and we'll paint those completely as a separate. I'll mark where the camo goes to, and we'll spray them completely off, because what we're doing at the moment is just protecting the engine from any paintwork come across. We can then just touch up in there, and we'll do the parts afterwards. I think it's easier than trying to do them in situ, because to be honest, we've made such a bit of a hash going around with these engines and getting them all in place and sorted that things aren't exactly 100% lined up, shall we say. So we are winging it just a little bit. They're there, but honestly these resin bits are so small, there's a little bit of movement in them. They do sit down and they do bed down, but they're not exactly a perfect fit. So from that point of view, we're going to be showing them, obviously, to show off these glorious engines completely as a soft fit and up. But anyway, that went down, and then to be honest, we've got on there with MRP 112 medium sea grey, and to be honest, I've got a couple of other shades down in here. We've got the dark sea grey, and we've got the extra dark sea grey, and I'm going to use those just to break it up a little bit, just to give it a worn look before we even come in there with oils and with washes and clays and things like that, and pigments, just to grime it down and all those types of things. So we've done that. We've got the framework, and I haven't even taken this off yet, so I'm hoping it's all okay, and that turned out absolutely lovely as well, so that's pretty good down in there. So that one will all go on the top, but again, it's quite nice how that canopy just fits on. You can lift it off and away you go. But kudos again, MRP paints. If you haven't used them, give them a whirl, because they are just lovely, gorgeous to spray with, no real hassles. You just shake it, put it in your bottle and spray it, and that is literally all you have to do to this. It self levels, really, really nice. The only other thing we can speak about is on here I had a little bit of texture. That usual thing, I call it vortex ring effect, where obviously you just get the airflow and it's going around and it's pulling air into itself, and it extra dries the area, makes it a little bit rough. We did give it a little bit of a sand over with the old green and white sander just to take the edge off of it. Then we resprayed over it and had no problem. Another little tip you can do is just take self-leveling thinners, just the thinners, and overspray the entire surface. The great thing with that then, the micro surface texture that it has, that grittiness, it melts it, self-levels it, dries it off, and away you go. Just when you're doing it, don't pressure wash, clean it off with thinners, just a heavy coat right the way over it, and then leave it, don't touch it till it dries totally. It's going to take a couple of hours to go off like that, but when it does, it gives you a nice silky smooth finish to your paintwork. So if you are one of these people who does suffer with rough paintwork, and then obviously as you make your way through latter stages like deckling, you get silvering from it, give that a whirl, because that can actually help you out. And it's one of those quick, simple, easy tips that saved me. To be honest, when I did the flanker, I had real rough on the back of it for some reason. Put that down, never thought it'd work as well as it did, but it did. It worked absolutely beautifully. So if you don't want to polish and clean the areas, give that a whirl with it as well. You'll be absolutely fine. Needless to say, spoken about it before, the computer will be back tomorrow. Obviously, because we're going to be live so much tomorrow onwards, we speak about in a moment, I'm not going to have particular time to edit, but hopefully by Monday, because obviously Monday morning I'll be in, I'll get all 3 parts edited up, and then you'll get a part Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the Mosquito. By then, with any luck, I'll be moving ahead as well, because I'll get the camo work on, things like that. So you might even get a part of every single day next week of the Mosquito to get you bang up to speed. I still have every intention, if I can, to get this thing finished before the end of the month. So we got a clear month obviously into December, and then straight after December I've got some massive projects coming up straight away into the new year, which we'll speak about a little bit close to the time. But my French fancy entry, which I've pretty much got sorted now, what I'm going to be doing for that one, which we'll talk about in a few days time. But my first one up is going to be for the armoured personnel carrier SIG, is going to be the 432, which I'm really looking forward to doing that one straight out of the box. That's the TACM kit. Very, very nice indeed. So the big thing is, obviously it is Thanksgiving. We do something special. Before, we've done it over 4 days. We've done Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but this one we've done it a little bit sort of shorter, purely because of obviously constraints we've got around here as well, and with the building work and all the rest of it, which we'll show you that in a moment. So that's slightly coming to an end as well, thank God. But for what we're going to do is obviously kick this off tomorrow, UK in the afternoon. So obviously in the US it'll be your morning, and we're going to then basically be doing every afternoon and evening, and then morning morning, afternoon and evening on Saturday and Sunday as well. So it's going to be a 3-day type of thing. So really we're going to run from tomorrow afternoon 1 o'clock British time, we're winter time now over here, and we're going to run to around about sort of 5 or 6. Okay, from then we'll have a couple of hours to, you know, get some food, usual things, eat, drink and all of that, and then I'm going to be on with you in the evening. And then obviously Saturday morning we're going to be live on here, and then obviously Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, and then the same for Sunday. So Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening with you, when we'll wrap it up there. Remember, slightly different this year. In previous years we've said you must start a kit and try and finish it within the time lot that we've obviously allowed for this one. I'm thinking that's a little bit over the top, so what we're going to say is bring along your stall projects, bring along your projects you're working on at the moment, and then obviously you can share your great work. Again, it's supposed to be fully interactive with you guys, so we want you posting up in the forum. That way we can have a look around the forum live on the show and show the other members live who are watching all your great work, things like that. Again, if you've got any questions, obviously hobby related is preferable, but we tend to know every question will come up. For obviously me, Lynn's, Steve's going to be on, Matt's going to be on, we're hoping Hans going to be able to join us as well from the team, so we'll be actually be able to answer your questions direct live. I'm trying to get Stefan into this as well. He just doesn't know it yet as well, because we haven't seen Stefan on the team for a little bit, but obviously he's back with us now, so we're hoping to get him up to speed. So if you've got any questions for any of us, post them up. Again, it's going to be live. We're going to be in the live chat room, so you can post up all your questions and we'll do it right here and then. And the usual thing as well, if you've got a specific thing you'd like me to show you, you know, a little technique or a product, something else like that, I can do all that for you as well. So just post up any of your questions on there, we can have a look. And again, same thing, if you've got a video, you want to shoot your own little video and then you want to send it over to us, we can show it live on air for the rest of the world to see it as well. So again, fully interactive. It's what we love to do. We intend to do a lot more of this next year. I enjoy it. I know you love Saturday lives, stuff like that, and obviously time constraints are a little bit difficult at the moment, but hopefully next year as we move into everything, we'll have a bit more time and we can share these great things with you. Really enjoying it. So the shed, as we're calling it, it's a bit more than a shed, as you'll see now. I'm just going to move this because I'm terrified I'm going to clap it one, so I'm just going to stick him over here because I don't want to knock it. But over in the outside office, it's officially being called now. We have been working very hard. Let me show you the photos of where we have got to. Just before, I'm going to embarrass a certain someone because she's not here, so I can do this. But this is a certain person. There she was yesterday, spraying Buster. Spoke about it. Is it that better that way? No, it's probably better that way. She was there, as you can see, busy spraying along, doing her bit. And again, very cleverly, as a lot of you spotted on the photos I put up on social media, she's actually ambidextrous. She does use left and right hands. That's just before, well, actually that was primer coat on of the Mozzie before the top coat went on as well. So that was the Mozzie in the spray bay. And there we go. It has been done. It's now watertight. The window problem we had has now been fixed, so it is there. So all the banging and crashing hopefully comes to a little bit of an end. Obviously they have got the interior to do yet, but that is the outside completely finished off. So as a lot of you saw, when you think we went from that shed to that, it's actually the same size as the shed. It's just because this thing's taller, it looks bigger. In the inside, you can still see we've got a little bit of work to do. We had the electricians around today talking about the first fix, getting all the wiring in for it and everything else like that. So that's going to happen next week. And obviously we'll start plasterboarding and going along. So we've got some great insulation down there. I think that's 100mm thick insulation. We've got the flooring to sort out as well. But as you can see, it's all taking shape now, coming together, and is pretty much all in place of how we want it. Again, thank you everybody who sort of, I know it hasn't been easy. We've had obviously banging and crashing. Trust me, from my point of view, when you're trying to do here and film, when it's there, because don't forget it's literally on the other side of this wall, the banging and crashing and the saws running, trying to film, and especially to do what I hope is somewhat of a professional production, has been a bit of a no-no. And I know it's caused a little bit of an uproar and everything that's gone on this week with everything, but hopefully that'll be out of the way, and then next week we can sort of push through, get going with the builds, and getting on with what we do, you know, best here and all the rest of it. Anyway, over to the questions. We have, if I can get them to queue up. Right, okay, Bryn says, I've got to do my own handle today. Hi Phil and Lindsay, love the new format, and welcome to Lindsay from here in California. Just a quickie, Phil. I'm wondering if you could recommend a cheap airbrush booth or saving up money for joining the big boys and buying one like yours. My original question was a lot better, but I pressed the wrong button, and I presume he means a bloody laptop, farted and died. Sorry, can you say that on here? Guess, I don't know, we do have a profanity filter on the forum, but I have got it set to mild, so I think you're okay. Guess that I can scowl, and that would be a no. Okay, then again, welcome to the LAF. Looking forward to seeing you all build your models. Okay, so spray booths. A lot of people ask about it. I always say, never obviously spend without your means. There's no point getting into debt over something. But I also would say you do pay for what you get for. There is some spray booths out there. You can pay around about 60 quid for them. If you are venting clean out of the room, as in you've got the hose and it's going out of a window or something else like that, then obviously go for it. Because at the end of the day, as long as you can extract the fumes and nasties and the dust material, because that's what a lot of the lung issues are going to give you out, then you're not going to have a problem at all. Okay, so if you can only afford like a 60 quid one, do that. If you can afford a little bit more, the aircom systems, obviously from Everything Airbrush, you can get them around as well. They are absolutely great. They're the smaller ones I used to have flanking these ones. They are great little units. They've got really good pull, but just make sure you get the 38 watt one and not the 18, because I think the 18 watt really is no better really than the cheap Chinese knockoff ones. Okay, the 38 watt one though is a really good unit. It shifts a lot of air. Again, you're venting clean out. Or you can go for something like this. This is really a 300 quid unit at the end of the day. It's about 270 quid, 300 quid. Okay, they are fantastic. This particular one, as you know, I have had over, I think it's 11 years now, and it is still as good as the day I bought it. It works absolutely fantastic, and it shifts a lot of air. To prove how much air both of these shift when it's running, the door, if it's just like push 2, will actually physically open because it's drawing so much air through. That's how much air that these things will actually shift. From our point of view, when I'm spraying and we're over here like this and we're doing the thing, then obviously, you know, from a health and safety point of view, they are great because everything goes that way. As long as you're spraying that way or you're spraying down in here, it's going to go in here. You're not going to have an issue, okay? But like I say, with everybody who airbrushes, for the guys who get hold of their model then and they're holding it and the spray booth's here and they're like this, it's not really doing much. You want to be pointing at it or in the environment so all of the fumes go that way. Otherwise you're really defeating the object of having one, okay? But I see a lot of people airbrushing, especially online, and they're looking down and I'm thinking, why aren't you spraying in your booth? You know, you're spraying on your legs or at your feet when your spray booth's there, because obviously you're blowing all the material down. It then goes around the room and you're sort of defeating the object of a spray booth. So make sure you use it and you point at it and you'll be absolutely fine. But again, going back, if you can only afford a cheap one, just do that, because something is better than nothing. But if you can't, then you've got your good old-fashioned mask, which will set you back, I don't know, this one set me back around about, I think it's 25, 30 quid with the filters and everything. You can get them a lot cheaper if you have a look around. But again, wear a mask, because at the end of the day, it's not worth, you know, killing yourself over something like this. And as you can see, I can prove this to her just because she's not here. Can you see the colour in here? This could be a certain little person who normally sit next to me's makeup. So people who say she doesn't use this mask, she does, because look, I can prove it. It's all in here, which means, to be honest, I think we need 2. Otherwise, I'm going to look very goldified. But a little certain person was using this as well. So be warned, it is the thing. It is chemicals, it is dusty. It's a bit like using resin. Use a mask, use a spray booth, and be safe. Okay. Right, Grant says, interesting question this, because again, I did have a look about this. This is one that came up the other day, and we were talking about the B29 Super Fortress, about painting it grey, because we were saying, is it grey, or technically is it just a dull metal finish? And we were talking about, are there, and actually as you can see, this is the underside is black, because you can see there in the middle, it does point out that this is black, and it's natural metal on the top. I have to say, that's a great scheme, love that. Okay, but yeah, so there we go. It's natural metal on the top. Then you've got day glow and insignia yellows. The grey actually is flat black. So it's one of the bomber ones again. So it is this thing. We are just talking about different manufacturers, things like that. But as I said, I've seen it in olive drab, but no one's actually seen it in this grey colour you mentioned. So it may be a thing, but perhaps it looks grey on the instructions, but actually that would be a dull natural metal finish. Okay, so from that point of view, just have a look at your references, see how they go. That's a great find though. I love that marking. Sorry, who put that up? Grant. Good find on that one, Grant. Okay, next up we have sorry, right, okay, Bared, is it Bared? Bared? Sorry, mutilating names as always. Hi, Phil Flory, mutilating names from around about 2007. Hi Phil, quick and punchy question. What colour did you use for the interior of the Mozzie? MIP, I guess. So do you have an equivalent Vallejo and Tamiya? Funny enough, where is it? Okay, there is a couple of options. They're all roughly the same. This is the one, cockpit interior green, Japanese Navy, XF71. To be honest, that is extreme. Well, not that, because obviously it hasn't had a shake. This is the MRP ones, which is number 7, which is what they're calling it, but which is the American one. There is an RAF one, obviously. Where is my RAF one? I've now put it back, have I? Hold on, where is it? RAF interior green. The difference being is just a little bit lighter. This one you can probably see it just down in the bottle. There isn't a lot to it, and to be honest with you, it's just a little bit darker. The RAF one is just a little bit lighter than the actual Tamiya one. Vallejo, to be honest, I can't remember what that one is off the bat, but I have been using this one. It's a great colour. I enjoy spraying it. It goes down really easy, but to be honest, for hand touch-ups, I have been doing a little bit of this. Okay, so this is the type of environment, and to be honest, the reason I have it out, sorry, wrong one, where are we? Because obviously we've got to get overspray in there from the camo work, and I'm going to have to go around and touch it up, and that's why I've got this out, and I might even look at this, although this is the US version. I think they do, I'm not sure if they do an acrylic one, but it's easy to paint, you see, so I will just get this and touch in those areas and everything else like that. But technically, I reckon a tiny little bit of white or just a light grey into a drop of XF71 for the interior green will give you pretty much what you want. You're going to be in the ballpark with it. I'm not sure about Vallejo. Not sure about that at all. Your other option, I know other people have done it this way, is to use the Sky, which is XF21, okay, which is this colour, which again, it just needs slightly darkening if you wanted to go down that route as well, but I know some people who use a bit of Sky for the green. As you can see, it's not a million miles out of the ballpark for it. So when you put these two together, you can see it's quite a lot of difference. But there we go, that's how I would adjust it. As you can see, it seems a little bit dark and it seems a little bit light on that one. So really what you want to do is just make perhaps a mix of these and you'll be good to go of what you're going to get in here. Okay, but there we go, that's how I would go for it. Pretty straightforward. Good question. Okay, and Robert says, hi Phil and Lindsay, on Tuesday show Lindsay had a bear sitting on her. On Wednesday she showed the bear on the floor behind Phil's chair. Can you give us a proper introduction to the bear? To be honest, this was my present from Sid. I think he did it at Build-A-Bear a couple of years ago, and that's what it is. And he does talk. Yes, but this is my present from Sid, and he normally lives in the corner with Flo. They sit together, but because we saw one on the live show, that's why we brought him down. But I will put him back up with Flo. Normally Flo sits between his legs. Steady. Okay. Scott says, hi Phil and Lindsay, I'm building the Tacom 1/16 scale Revel FT. Sorry, Renault FT. And I was wondering if you have any suggestions for weathering the interior. Also, what point, also at what point would you do it? Okay, so I must admit I am not 100% up on what one of those is, so we're just going to go for, hold on, I'm going to do it because like we're interactive here. Right, okay, so because I'm not sure what they do them as. It is what I thought, and I'm just having a look round. So, what we are looking at, do you know what? They make one in Lego. Who knew? Who knew they did a Lego one? Anyway, yeah, there does seem to be different colours out there and all the rest of it. I'm not sure what it would be for the inside, because it's that. I don't know if they're white in those and all the rest of it. I know they've got one at the Tank Museum, haven't they? But apparently it's hollow, it's just a shell. So I don't think there's anything inside that one. To be honest, I'm not sure what the French colours are inside. If I'm guessing, because it's just because that's what they were in those days, they were white. So it's probably going to be an off-white. And as for weathering it, I'd probably do exactly the same technique as what I did to the Tiger. To the King Tiger, and that is an oil wash. If you put an oil wash just over it, let it dry for a couple of hours, and then go in there with a dry brush, and then you can blend, and that way you can do some very interesting type scratching type things and stuff like that. So from that point of view, I'd probably do something along those lines. So if you want to have a look at the King Tiger one, have a look at that, see how I actually did that one, and perhaps follow along with that idea. I'm assuming there'll be white, but I know the armour guys out there are probably screaming, no, it was green or brown or something else in there. But I'm just thinking normally in those types of vehicles, because they were dark enough places, I would imagine that they would have actually just been painted white. So from that point of view, I'm thinking oil wash, probably something like a smoke, or maybe a dark brown, or obviously something like an off black. Just streak it into it, and then you're going to find a lot of grime. There's going to be a lot of heat, a lot of debris, dirt, that type of thing in there. So from that point of view, I would make a right mess inside it. Just thinking, that's how I'd go for it anyway. Okay, Alex says, hi Phil and Lins, with the rise of MRP, Hataka, Tamiya and other lacquer paints, I'm wondering what's wrong with Mr. Colour lacquer paints. They've been around for quite a long time now, but I haven't seen them recently. Have you used them, and how do they compare to the current favourite of MRP? To be honest, the biggest trouble you find with those is getting them in the UK, because obviously of licensing, and from a legal point of view, you can't sell them in the UK because of labelling issues. Now, the trouble you have with labelling issues doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad product and it's something horrible and you don't want to be using it. It's just sometimes you can't physically fit them on the label, or it costs too much for the company to change the labelling over. To be honest, when we were talking to the hobby company, we were talking about obviously Tamiya lacquers and various things and stuff like that, and their enamels coming into the country. The reason they don't do that is purely because of labelling issues. I'm imagining it could be something to do with that as well. Because they're not readily available in the country, or they're a little bit of a nightmare to get in, basically just like guns paints were, because until the last 5 years you just couldn't get them in the UK. You had to like do special orders and get them in. That's why people didn't use them. So from that point of view, they are very good paints. They are absolutely great. It's just in the UK's point of view, they're just really difficult to get hold of. Then you get other companies who just bring them in, which obviously MRP was technically, I think, the first lacquer paint readily available with no issues getting them inside the UK. I think that's why they've taken off so well. I have got these to still try, and to be honest, I was planning on doing them today, but to be honest, I pushed on with the Mozzie because I wanted to get some video builds to you guys. But we're going to give these a whirl, and we're going to go through how good these things are and all the rest of it. But again, these tend to be a little bit weird because you can thin them with anything. But from a lacquer point of view, paints and enamels and stuff like that, I think most of it just boils down to availability. If you can't get them, it's easy just to go to your shop and grab whatever you can get. And then obviously paint colours and ranges. We are all a little bit of collectors. So if you got started off with Tamiya, if you were like me, I have this big goal to have every Tamiya paint there is. That soon went out the window now, and I just have my selection of what I use. And the same actually of MRP. I haven't got the whole range there. I've just got what I use, and that's what I tend to go through. Okay, so from that point of view, I think it's just down to being available. If lacquer paints, the gun stuff, was down my local shop, or if Matt was bringing them in or whatever, chances are I'd use them because they are a very nice paint. But again, it's just down to literally what is available in your area. Okay, Keith says, Phil, no question, just a bit of a heads up for the RAF Museum at Hendon. For anyone visiting, they're in the process of rebuilding and preparing for next year's 100th anniversary of the RAF. Many of the exhibits are therefore not on display, so anyone thinking of a long journey may well be disappointed. I'm fortunate only to live about 30 minutes away. Lucky me. It's a shame because, as I said, it's a great museum, but I assume they're coming up obviously then with something very RAF led for next year. So yes, I can't remember who we were mentioning it to, but there we go. It might be worth not, but if you've never been before, I'm sure it'd still be a fantastic place because they've got such a wide variety there, but just be readily available to make you think that sometimes it might be better. Okay, Alan says, hi Phil, quick one, really, how would you go about painting and weathering one of these? I'm looking particularly how to fade the camo, and would you hand brush on the panel line seams? Beautiful photo, love that. That's stunning. In fact, I've seen one very similar, which was the two-seater one, looking just as bad. There's something about the Greek Corsairs, and you know, and all of their forces really, they just got extra special weathering on them. They look absolutely fantastic. Okay, so how would I go about it? To be honest, I have done a few things like this in the past. Really, what you're talking is fading and back painting, as I call it. So what I would technically do, start off obviously with your primers, and then I would go through in with the light colours, and then mask them up obviously along the belly, and then you're going to go in there with the buff right the way over. But what you're going to do straight off the bat is lighten it. Okay, you're going to lighten it by around about 25%. So lightening the sort of the buff colour down on there, you know, you're really going to go in there with something like Tamiya Buff or Deck Tan. That'll lighten that up really nice without actually changing the colour too much. You don't really want to lighten it with white because you're going to technically bleach it out. Okay, but that will make it go right the way through. And then you're going to do the same with the two-tone green because it's a three-tone camo on those. So with the dark one again, and then obviously the others, paint them all in. And then what you're going to do really is just going to go with a little bit of post shading again, even more in the centers of all the panels, right the way around it to really bleach it out. And then you're going to go back, or I would, with the original color. So go back with the original color and then just paint them back in, because technically that's what they've done. It's a form of anti-corrosion that they're doing to the aircraft. So they're going around, especially you can see it just down here on the front. These areas up here, that is just somebody with a can, or actually with a gun, spraying in the panels so to stop corrosion from actually getting into where the rivet heads go, and obviously the seams down the side of the panels, and that is it. So what you're going to do is really recreate what is there. Other areas, like you can see down in here, you've got that little dark patch, is obviously where they've blown it in and they've gone round, and it is the thing of just having fun going through the areas and taking them and just recoating. It looks like it's had a bit of work down in here, but if you look at the tail as well, you can see it's had multiple touch-ups. But you're looking at leading edges of the wings, the fuel tanks, everywhere. The jet has had a particularly hard life. Just that intake alone, you can see the chipping and weathering on there. A beautiful look right the way through. A very, very nice looking aircraft. As for the underside down in here, to be honest, I'd probably clay wash first. I would sand it all in, and then I'd use oils. Put oils in there, let them dry on for a couple of hours, and do the streaking technique like you do for that interior of the tank when we were talking about that as well. And just going through the motions of it. So it is just one of those things. Just taking your time, going through them all, and I think you'll be absolutely fine with it. But again, it's a very nice, very interesting subject. It's one of those ones where, honestly, you want to enjoy it. You don't really want to be in a situation where you're overthinking that. You're just trying to obviously take your references, if you can, get some different angles and see how they've done it, and then literally just try and recreate that and put that paint around in all those areas to try and give you that type of look, that type of feel to it. But to try and make it exactly 100% in scale is going to be a little bit different. So it's always going to be that sort of interpretation of your model on there. But really, I love it. I think it's a great one. In fact, you know, I'm that enthralled with it. I've got one sat there. Look at that. I've got the bicentennial one down there as well. So it's one of those ones where you see these things and automatically I'm thinking, I'd love to do that. Want to do that one. Okay, so Owen says, hi Phil and Lens. Phil, back in when you and Steve were doing the Saturday morning builds, you said you had plans to do... No, hold on. I'm just putting the story straight here. Steve said we had plans to do the 1/72nd A400M, or the Atlas, the big new Herky thing, all right? I know it's massive and you'd need its own hangar, but have you got any plans ahead for that in the future? No. I said to Steve at the time, what it was, we got carried away like you do. You get a couple of guys chatting, and I just simply said, Steve said it'd be great to do it. I said, if you used to do it, you might as well stick engines in it and lights. Steve said that's put it to a cargo drop, and before you know it, you've got a couple of idiots who've gone from what should be a straightforward build into making some diorama of a couple of A400s airdropping out the back. Again, if I had all the time in the world and I didn't have pressures of everything, of doing other builds and stuff, it's the type of thing I'd probably have a good go at, because I think it will be fantastic. But me and Steve did say it'd be a good one to do. But they are huge, they are big kits. I've still got it down there, and I know Steve's got his as well. So never say never to any of this, because you know what we're like. We might just say, oh, stuff it, let's do it. But it's one of those things you sort of get carried away with it. What should have turned out to be, yeah, we do a couple of A400s, let's do a couple of different markings, they'll look lovely together. It's a bit like when we decided to do the A10s together. Seemed great, but now you put them together anyway, they take up so much room. Mine is now hanging up on the wall, but they are such big aircraft. Next year, what I would love to do, and I think speaking to a lot of you and some feedback I've had over the last few days, which has been absolutely thank you, great, I love it, you know I love me feedback, is that I'm going to concentrate on a lot more 1/48 scale straight out of the box with some twists. Okay, so we're thinking it might have a little bit of photo etch, it might have a little bit of resin inside them, it might have a small simple conversion, and then we can do more with painting and weathering and all the hardcore stuff that we can do with that. So it's not going to turn into a 3-month build, it's not going to turn into a 15-parter 16-parter build, so we can get the build count down so each one is moving through on a couple of weeks. Okay, so that way you guys get to see more builds and I don't get tied into doing these big builds, because I think what a lot of people don't appreciate is obviously the amount of time a big build takes. As was pointed out to me, people can't moan because it would take them a year to build one and they've got a lot more time than I've got. Okay, so from that point of view, doing the big builds we did this year, I got tied into it. So next year they're going to be smaller 1/48 stuff, and then in the summer I will do one big build and that will be it. Okay, we'll do something huge with everything thrown at it. The rest of the year will be your normal type of more generic stuff, so we can spend more time doing different painting techniques, different weathering techniques, and maybe some little conversions, things like that, so we can show you in a more snappy, more concise, a little bit more easy to follow and not as drawn out manner. Just a quick one for Lindsay, she's not here. I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll keep that back for her because she would love that as well. I know Lindsay's watching this now, so it's a shame I can't Skype her in. But he basically said, just a quick one for Lindsay, my daughter Katie is now her biggest fan and she wants to know if she plays Skyrim, and also she loves her hair. Bless. I think she's on about colouring it again, so look out, God knows what she's going to come in with. On a personal note, it's great to have having Lindsay on the shows, as it's getting Katie onto the site also, which is go and watch along with me. Thanks for all the great work. It's great, no problem. I'll pass that on to her. Okay, Thomas says, hi Phil, I'm embarrassed to confess that I've always struggled with my builds where I'm supposed to do panel lines and joining two kit parts. This is supposed to be easy, as panel lines should become naturally, but I'm never quite happy with my joints. The joints look too wide or narrow compared to the rest of the model. When I try to deepen them compared to those that I've already in my model, when I try to deepen them, the edges become wobbly and engraved tool, making large holes, etc. I've even ended up filling and engraving the last part of the join. I would have been faster to make it invisible and then in the first place, and then engrave totally afterwards. I would do a nice panel line just by gluing it would speed up my build considerably. How do you prefer to do a panel line join? Thanks for the great 5 at Live. Looking forward to your turkey shoot weekend. Okay, sometimes I'm a great believer in just do it. Literally. So what I tend to do is, if you've got one of those ones and it's going to be a proper panel line join up, okay, what you tend to do is I will test fit it, and just to see how nice it is. If it's a really nice one, what I'll do is I will then literally just place it together or hold it together, and I will do capillary action with the glue, and I will just let it track its way down. As you always hear me say, let the glue do all the work. Capillary action's your best friend, okay? Let it go down and just leave it. What happens then is, because you haven't squeezed it together, you've got no glue pushing out and all the rest of it, it will just sit there and give you a great line. But if you're in one of those ones where it's just not nice, I'm a great believer in glue the shit out of it, okay, let it dry, sand it, get it nice, get it all perfect, okay, and then pop a brand new panel line straight in there. Okay, and sometimes that is a lot better than it is messing around trying to make a particularly nasty join nice, because by the time you, like you're saying, you've tried to get it all in there and you've tried to make it all good, really all you're doing is making a complete mess and wasting your time, when you should have just chucked it all together, sand it, get it all nice and perfect, and just put a very nice clean panel line, just rescribe one down in there, some riveting, whatever you're going to do, and not mess around with it. far too much have I looked back over models I've worked on over the years, and I'm not talking recently, I'm on about back in time as well, when I thought to myself, I wasted hours trying to get that right, when if I stopped messing around with it, just chucked it down, I would have had a better outcome. It would have looked nicer and saved myself hours of work. Okay, so from that point of view, I would go with something like that than messing around with it. At the end of the day, it's time. Most of us don't want to get bogged down too much into it. You want to be moving on. So I would just look at it. It's never going to be nice. Fill it as well. So if you've got a situation where it looks like it needs a filler job, just fill it, sand it, and then rescribe it, re-rivet it afterwards, because trust me, it'll always be quicker. Many times I tried to do nice joins and it just made a hash of it, and then you end up having to fill it, redo it, fill it, redo it, and everything else. And it's one of those things, should have just got on with it in the first place. There we go. Okay, Stephen says, hi Phil, any advice on working on vinyl kits? I have a 25-year-old, yep, been in the stash that long, alien kit, entered into the sci-fi build. I'm wondering if there's a particular issues to look out for. It mentions using acrylic paints, which would put a crimp in my plans. Would you be able to use something like Future as a barrier coat and then put lacquers on top of it? Be careful. Also, would super glue or epoxy glue be best? Okay, a bit of an adventure for one, but at least I might give anyone a laugh when I fail on it spectacularly. Steve. You won't, you'll be fine. Vinyl kits. Okay, a couple of things to watch out with vinyl kits. One is lacquers, because vinyls do not like lacquers. Okay, so if you're thinking of lacquer paints, again, you can get away with spraying it on as long as it's very thin and it dries very quickly. You'll be absolutely fine. You put a heavy wet coat on there, chances are it's going to eat the vinyl. Okay, your other thing as well is gluing. Just be careful when you're using super glues, because what happens is vinyl tends to be a little bit softer, so actually super glue is rock hard. It's a bit like using resin, but if you come to doing any type of cleanup work, you will eat through the vinyl really quickly. The super glue is particularly tough. Okay, so from that point of view, just be careful as you're doing it. Vinyl kits, I haven't done any vinyls really for quite a while now, so it's a little bit old school, and I've always painted them with acrylics as well. I haven't actually tried to overcoat. I would highly recommend putting down a couple of coats of clear though, if you are, and then put your actual your lacquers over the top of it. You should be fine with a good barrier, but again, just be a little bit careful, because again, you don't want to be in that situation. You put it together, it looks lovely, and it starts to do, you know, what was it, Raiders of the Lost Ark with the figures, and they melted. Purely because I saw one come up for auction the other day, half melted, because they were made of a type of vinyl which they heated with a blowtorch, which made them melt, which is how they did it, apparently, the film. One of those came up for auction. No, I didn't bid. But yeah, so just be a little bit careful as you're gluing them all together. Have a look around, see what people are doing these days. I haven't done a vinyl kit in a while. As for glues, things like that, again, don't use hot lacquer glues, because obviously, you know, your mechs and stuff, it's going to eat it. Okay, but super glue should work well as long as you're a little bit sparingly with it and put those down. You should be fine. Other things as well, was it? I used to use like Yoo-hoo type glue. It's a nice one for that. It puts it together with no problem at all. Okay, David says, afternoon Phil and Lindsay. If you do a starship ship, yes, resistance is futile, you'll need some of this. I saw this earlier actually when you first put it up. Discover the Empire's best kept secret. Look, Romulan ale. Fantastic. That would be a good poster up on your wall. Okay, one more on the serious note. I'm following you on the early days of Brit Modeler. Crikey. I think I was Brit Modeler member number 10 or something. I was that early in there. Those were the days. When you got in trouble for using the Pro Modeler as a company name. I didn't. They got in trouble, then they got in trouble with us, and then we got in trouble with them, and then we all had to agree to be friends afterwards. But we did get there eventually. And you sold your first formula. Yes, we did. We sold the first formula of the wash to another company who never used it. So someone came up with a new one. I'm building, like you, one of the others in supporting, sorry, I'm behind you, like others in supporting you, and everyone else doesn't or can pound salt. I haven't heard of that saying. That's a different new one to me. Very good. Okay, now the modelling note. If you do a 1/48 SU 35, you may want to do this scheme. Do you know what this scheme here is? My favourite of all time. In fact, it's such a favourite of all time. The YF23 I am building this weekend is going to be in that scheme, purely because I love it. And I fly the F5 on DCS when I have a computer, and that's the scheme I fly it around in as well. It's a what if for the Saints. But yeah, I absolutely love that scheme. It's one of my favourite schemes of all time. And to be honest, if you want to watch this space, I am going to do it to the YF23. And when I do my SU-35, it's going to be in that marking as well, because it is my favourite marking of all time. Also, here's a bit of a tip. I was told during my maintenance course for using personal safety equipment when spraying and painting, I was told that when you're done wearing your respirator painting mask, that you should take the carbon filters out of the paint mask and put them into a Ziploc bag, sealing it from the air around it. Why? The filters are continuously working even though you're not using it. By putting them into the bag, it stops the process, extending the life of the filters. That's genius, and saving you the money, which are rather expensive. Us modelers who use them and don't use them every day, as it's a good idea and good practice to do. Do you know what? That's genius. I've never heard of that before, but actually it makes perfect sense. So yeah, so what we're talking about, your filters on your respirator, taking them out, bunging them in a Ziploc bag so it's airtight. That way they're not continuously breathing on their own. And people might think, yeah, but you're not pushing air through it, but they're always activated because obviously they've got an active charcoal filter in there, so they're always working. So that will definitely work. Yeah, that's a new one on me. I must admit, I haven't heard of that one, so thank you for that one. And yeah, great for that SU-35 scheme. Watch this space. Hopefully by Sunday I'll have one looking just like it. Well, it won't. It'll look like a YF-23 in a Russian scheme. But that's my bit of what if for the weekend. Okay, Robert says, hi Phil and Lindsay. It was great to see Mel again. Maybe you should take a few days off and let the ladies run the show. I have suggested this. I said both of them in here and I'm off, but yeah, it fell on deaf ears, quite frankly. My question is for you, trying something new. The 1 to 700 MV combo container ship from my daughter. She's a maritime insurance agent. Okay, that's a whole lot of black hull paint. She's getting, is that like the Revel container ship Ron did and took like 5 years to build? I don't know, but I'll have to check to see actually which that one is. Whose kit is that one? I know Revel did one with the container ship and he did all the containers for it, and I don't think he ever did finish it. Should I something similar to the ME262 build, or would you suggest something different? Hope to be back home in time for the turkey shoot. Okay, so again, it's personal choice on whichever one you want to do. Should I something similar to the ME262 build? The ME262 build, to be honest, if you wanted to do that one and do the Revel kit as I did, do it straight out of the box. Beautiful kit. Actually, it's really, really nice straight out of the box. Again, I know there's a little bit of thing people said about re-riveting it or not to re-rivet it. Obviously we elected not to, just did a little bit of light work underneath for it, but actually it's still an absolute fantastic kit, and it can be seen now going around the country with the Luftwaffe SIGs. I donated it to them. Okay, Gary says, hi Phil and Lindsay, how would you remove resin wheel hubs from the carrier, as I have bought a set of Edar Brazin 148 A6 intruder resin wheels and I don't know how to remove all the resin. Keep up the good work and all the best to you. I think I've showed it a few times, literally. Actually, have I got another set? I've got another set here somewhere. Where are we? Scratch building, no. Another set of resin wheels in here somewhere. That's ME262s. Where's the ones? Hold on, I have another set here somewhere, I'm sure of it. He says knowingly, I did have another set. I don't know what I've done with them now. I did have another set. Basically what I do is, where you've got the flat spot, cut it. So you just cut straight down. You get the extra bits around. I push them off and just wiggle them and they'll fall away. Once they've gone, to be honest, coarse sanding stick, couple of passes just to get it all down there, onto the fine side on the coarse, okay, and just polish that in a little bit more, then a sponge, and then you just round it off with a sponge and you'll be absolutely fine. So don't think too much of it, but you're just going to cut straight down. If you have got, like, you know, a belt sander, you can just and get rid of it, but usually just a saw, put it through there and you'll be absolutely fine with that one. It's not a problem. Pretty straightforward job on that one. David is back. David, you're now becoming my favourite person of ever because he puts up such cool pictures. Look, Sky Raider. I want to do a Sky Raider and I've got one up there. Oh, God. Love it. Coolest aircraft ever. Hi, Phil. Here's another Da Nang Sandy. Oh, look at that. Sorry, you guys can't see that. Look at that. And this is the bit where, you know, obviously a lot of people say to me, where'd you get your inspiration from? I will see something like that and I am like a big kid. I'm like, got to build it now because that's like the coolest thing ever. Plus the fact, everyone has to admit that the Sky Raider has to be one of the coolest aircraft ever. You know, because not only is it a prop, but it's a badass prop. And whoever can hang that many weapons off of it is just a genius. So yes. There we go. That's it for today. Anyway, I've got a question for you. I saw a photo somebody sent me the other day, and it's a jet, and I think it's a Phantom, or it could be a Corsair, not sure, because it's just a picture of a piler, but it's got a car tyre hanging on it that was apparently dropped over Vietnam. You know the one where they did with the Sky Raider? It's what reminded me, and it had the Sky Raider with the toilet hanging onto it, and they put the medals onto it and dropped it back to the North Vietnamese. Yeah, well, somebody's done one. It's got a car tyre, but I don't know the story behind it. But it has got a car tyre that's been mounted onto a drop bracket onto the sway braces of a jet in Vietnam, but it's physically a car tyre, and I just don't know the story behind it. And it's just the photo. If I can find the photo out, I'll dig it out and post it up, and you guys can have a look at it as well. But yeah, just a little bit interesting on that one. Right, that is about it for today. See, even on my own I can talk for like, you know, 50 minutes. So obviously we're all going to kick off hopefully around about 1 o'clock tomorrow. If we are a little bit late, what it means is we're putting the new computer back in and getting that one up online and everything else. If not, what we're going to do is wait till Monday and we'll just carry on with Old Faithful over there and make our way through. I would love for you to join us. You don't have to be there all the time. Obviously I appreciate you have lives. I don't. So that doesn't matter. So me and Lindsay will be here obviously over the next 3 days. So obviously we're going to be tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, again tomorrow, and then Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and then same for Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, and then we will sleep, and that will be it. We'll be dead then on Monday probably. But we'd love you to join you. Remember, there's no hard fast rules. There's nothing. You can just build along with what you're building at the moment, but we'd love you to join us so we're not just sat here modelling to ourselves and everything else like that. Anyway, that is it from me. Happy modelling, take care, and I'll catch you all tomorrow afternoon.